people that was really excited that we were getting out, and it's something that they can see. So they was really excited about that. So I think starting off, we want to review the attendance ordinance. The Public Art Board meets once a month. And I want to be very mindful of everyone's time. If there is a month that we do not need to meet, we will send an email out. And if we don't have a quorum, we probably will not meet. I'll make notes and I'll send them if there's something pressing that we need to do or something, a decision that I need. I'll send it to you by email just so I can gauge where the board is. And that way we can continue to move things, but also being mindful of everyone's time, that this board is very important to the city, but we also want to be mindful that you guys are busy. And so we appreciate you guys taking the time out to sit on this board and help us with public art. We want the Public Art Advisory Board to be more involved. My interdepartmental group that I have put together is no longer because James is gone, Steve is gone, and Finley is gone. So I'm having to rework that entire group, but hopefully we get that back together. And we're a project-based group. And so when we look at projects, if we're looking at the soccer complex, and just on the front end of that, I want to say, hey, we're doing the soccer complex and we have carved out, an 8x8 piece of square. What can you do with it? And from the front, get the Public Art Board kind of on their own working. We expect that project to be done in 18 months. And, if you guys want to do something there, there's a spot for you to, kind of go with whatever you guys would like to do. So kind of want to get that group back together because internally we know a project that's upcoming, what we're going to do, where we need public art at. And so if we know that ahead of time, we can always give you guys enough time to kind of go through the process, work it out. One of the things we always have to do are RFQs or RFPs or purchasing. All boards have to follow the same procedures that the city would follow. And so we will walk through that with you guys as far as like putting out the RFQ for, qualifications or, contract or whatever. We'll work through all that with you. And then we are also your treasury on this board. So we will account for all your spending because we have to put it in anyway. So it'll all be spending. Every meeting you will have a budget. You don't have a budget this month because I have not approved it by our finance director. So I want to make sure he gets the final look at that from my 2022 into my 2023 year. And so I will get you guys that. There's been no expenses because we have not done anything, but the poetry project was approved. That money was appropriated and I have received an invoice for that. And I'll give you an update on that later, but that has been approved. But just attendance wise, you can miss up to 3 meetings and then you'll get a warning from Ms. Shawana. She'll send you a nice little warning. It's in a 12-month rolling span, so each absences would fall off after 12 months, and you can't miss more than 4. So again, that's why it's really important when we meet and we don't have a quorum that again we kind of don't meet, so that doesn't count against someone who is working or whatever. So I think a big thing with boards and commission is being mindful that this is a volunteer-based board. We want to be mindful of your time. You don't necessarily have to meet every month. Sometimes there's just not enough things to discuss. And if we don't meet, we run 3 other boards and we run them the exact same way. We meet when necessary. We have to meet every month. Over the summer, we like to give a reprieve for the summer months. People are out there on vacations. So we also like to look at the month of June and July in advance and say, hey, if that's a month that you guys, are going to be out of town or we're going to have 2 or 3, because there's only 5 of you guys. So it's going to be really important that I have at least 3. So, and then also so that no one gets behind on the projects as we're going through them. So kind of keep everyone in the loop. Cal did a good job of sending out emails. I'm going to try to be just as good to send out reminders and all that good stuff and keep you guys up to date on what we're doing. So I'm going to try my best to do that. And then, is there any questions about attendance, policies, and procedures for the board? We mostly did all the RFQs anyway. You guys wrote them, but they were all handled by our purchasing department. So we'll still continue to do that. All the purchasing, we've always done that. So that's no big deal. All the money has to be appropriated. That's one of the biggest things for me, is it have to be appropriated in advance. So I had talked with James before he left about having almost like a not a petty cash, but like a small amount of money that we appropriate, say if it's $5,000. So if you guys want to do a sponsorship or you want to go in with somebody, we could easily do that. And they could just send me an invoice because I would already have the money appropriated for anything artboard. So I think thinking of ways to, again, kind of already have that money set aside because all your money is project-based. So it has to be appropriated on a project base, but I don't think council would have any problem with appropriating a small amount for miscellaneous so that we don't always have to take ordinances back to council because we do have to take ordinances back based on any project that we do. So any questions thus far?
Yes.
Yes.
Not on what you described, but you said something about the soccer field and that are they going to do another groundbreaking ceremony for that?
Yes, we are. So right now it is soaked. It has rained quite a bit. We're expecting more rain tonight, so we did not reschedule it. But hopefully next week, if it's dry all week, then I will reschedule another soccer. But yes, we will have a soccer groundbreaking. Absolutely. And we'll have MLK tomorrow. So we have MLK. The Unity sculpture is tomorrow. Cal did not send that out for me, but it's tomorrow at 12, and we're going to do that regardless. We're just going to kind of stay on the sidewalk because, again, MLK Square is a detention pond, and so it is
It's a pond
right now. It's a pond. It's a pond.
But it's supposed to work like that.
That's how it works. It did not flood in downtown this time, so it's doing what it's supposed to do. But anytime we use that area, after rain, it's going to be very tricky how we use that area because we don't want to track it up, and it's a pond. It literally turns into a pond, so it's very wet. So hopefully tomorrow it's not too wet. If it's raining by 10, we will cancel it. So we'll reschedule it for another day, but we'll still do it as well. So
12 tomorrow.
12 tomorrow. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just asking about that soccer field thing because I actually showed up. Nobody was there.
I know,
I'm a little bit hot about that.
I know, we put it on Facebook.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
We're gonna start back sending back out our messages. So we'll make sure the public art board is added into the email that we send out for all events, just so you guys know.
I'm a texter.
So the open projects that you guys have are Tiny Toads and the Portrait Project. Tiny Toads are done. Mr. Calvin has completed all 9 of them. One of them right now is Cal had it in his office, so he has relinquished ownership of it, and it's now my office. So they're very heavy. They're small. They're little. I mean, they're small. I should have brought it down with me just so you can see. Yeah, would you come and get it?
I haven't seen one.
I know it's really it's really nice. He always does a great job on those. But when we went to look at locations, we realized how small they would be on the sidewalk. We got something lifting them up. So we're in the process of working with a fabricator for just a small pedestal, like not as big as the little kids have, but something like that, similar. Physical Plant walked with Cal today. That was one of the last things he did. He's very passionate about his Tiny Toads. And they're marking off all of our locations for us. I talked to Kim yesterday, and her suggestion was maybe at Art Walk, we do an unveiling of all 9 of them because they're never going to be together in one location once we put them out. So we're working on maybe doing an unveiling that way instead of, because again, once they're out, they'll be spread all over. There's not a great way to do.
None are going to be installed on buildings. That was something that was talked about a while ago.
No, they're installed like in front of the building. So like in front of the building, just down on the sidewalk was this little toad.
Yeah, no, that's not.
So we went to a small 2 or 3 feet pedestal, depending on how he fabricates them. You can do either way. You can put a QR code on them, and you can scan the QR code, and then it'll link to our website with a description of each toad. That we already have the book printed, and we can also do some very small plaques on them as well. So we looked at both ways. So that's something we'll come back to you guys for once we have a quote for all of that work.
Is it precast? What's the stand made out of?
It's
something.
It's just like the the people, the sculptures that the kids
okay.
are made on, not that big, but he's gonna use a column almost similar to that. And then he's gonna put a round thing on them because they're round. Most of them are round. We have one that's kind of oval, the one with the car.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit longer. So he's gonna do something different with it. But Kim is working with him. We got a quote and it was it was a little expensive. It's more than a toad. It was more than a toad. So I don't think we get paid that much. But we'll come back and we'll look at those. So hopefully he is working on a project within the project that he's helping us with. So he's fabricating everything together. So he'll need an answer within the next 2 or 3 weeks, once he gets started, because he'll start fabricating them all. And then Physical Plan is going to set them for us. So they'll set them, glue them. I'm not really sure how they're going to put them on there, but and that way. And then Kim will walk with him so that each one is facing toward the building or, So we're working on those. But they are done and they do need an unveiling. And so she thought maybe they are starting Art Walk in March. And so I will get with her and Jessica called the other day. And so if you guys are good with that, March will be the first Friday in March for an unveiling of the Tiny Toads. I will send you guys the backup to the Tiny Toads just so you'll have that as well. And then I will send you the outline of the portrait project so you'll have that as well. We were working on you guys a binder tonight, but we ran out of time. But we're going to get you guys a binder just so you'll have the projects in hand that we're talking about. Look how he's loaded. He's very heavy.
He is very heavy.
This is so
Nice.
It's very detailed too.
Each one has an historical reference that it's going to make. So on the ground, they were small. So putting them up a little bit, like the one in Simon Park, he went beside the clock, and so
How many total are there?
9.
there's 9 or 10, maybe there's 10,
Or maybe that's 10.
yeah, maybe. I think there's 10.
Was this one supposed to go somewhere?
He does go somewhere.
Oh, he does.
He does.
He's
Yes,
the money guy.
we needed one. He's going to go probably in front of First
City
Security.
Hall, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it all about the money?
Yeah, he's probably going in front of. He's probably going in front of First Security. I'm thinking because that's a historic building.
Okay.
So he's probably going there. But again, down low they looked a little.
So get lost.
Yeah, they like beside again in Simon Park beside the clock. You would walk right past them. You wouldn't notice them. So just kind of elevating them a little bit so they can be seen. So if you guys are good with an unveiling in March, I'll start working on that. And speaking of Art Walk, Jessica did also ask about the Public Art Board doing some type of sponsorship for Art Walk. So just kind of throw that out there for you guys. I can always ask her to come and speak to you in regards to what she would like for you guys to do or whatever. But she did mention that as well. And
Yeah, we talked about like doing something versus just giving money.
Yeah. The poetry, I thought the poetry project was
Yes.
gonna.
that was one of them,
Yeah.
kind of Blackbird, kind of joint venture with them. And so speaking of the poetry project, it is ready to go. I got our contract signed today, and I got the first invoice, so it's ready to go. There are all the poetry, all the art, that's fine, that's good to go. But there are 2 concerns with the crosswalks. So 2 crosswalks were supposed to receive a mural. One of them is Donaghy, which Donaghy is already closed, and that's the detour that people take. And so that's going to be one that we will probably have to wait on because I can't see having the street close, another detour, and then we have to close it for at least 2 weeks for painting. And so that's already been really, really hard on people because we'll be on Donaghy for a little while. And so and I'm going to ask the contractors, I'm going to make sure they're not going to ever need to go up that far towards Otterburns. And if they are, then it would be fine. The other location was also near a school. The 2 weeks kind of concern us with the streets being closed. So just working out detours with transportation is what I'm doing now, just so we kind of know. But if not, we may come back and look at different crosswalks, different areas, maybe like, I don't know if Ida Burns had one on the side of their school that, again, right now wouldn't be good because, again, that's a detour street. So we're using that to direct people to, and then we would have to close it for 2 weeks. So we'd have to do another detour because you couldn't get, it'd be hard. So I'm still working on those two, but everything else is good to go. So I told her to go ahead, submit an invoice so that they could get started fabricating that. So hopefully that is a project that's going to get started soon. And then once they start putting those out, we can start thinking about how we want to do, any kind of ribbon cutting or unveiling for that as well. So those are both, they're ongoing, but they're moving quicker. They're moving a lot quicker. So any questions about any of those? So I'll follow back up with an email regarding the unveiling of the tiny toads because we will have them all here in our possession pretty soon. Calvin is going to bring them to us, so we will have all of them. And then we will keep them until Spencer gets ready to fabricate them. And as they're being installed, I will kind of come up with a mock schedule. And then I'll send it out to everyone and say, hey, physical plant is looking to install 2 today. Because they'll do them in, as he does the fabrication for each one, they'll go get to, they're pretty heavy too. They're like the bottom of them, because this was heavy. So they're not light. They're like 150 to 175 pounds. They'll do 2 at a time. They'll install 2 at a time. So they're heavy. And I'll just send you guys a schedule of when those are being done. I'll say, hey, we're going to install these 2 today, or whatever. So I'll keep a running schedule of those. Upcoming projects and priority for 2023. That was something that kind of wanted to make sure you guys had a work plan for the year. So definitely setting your priorities. I think before we do that, I think I want to skip down and I want to say that since this board is practically new, it does not have a chair. And so it will need a chair, and it also will need a co-chair, and it also needs a secretary. So if you guys will think about that, and at the next meeting, we will need to vote on all 3 of those. Because again, we're just staff, but there should always be a chair to this board, and then a co-chair for if that person's not here, and then the secretary will be the person that'll take all your minutes and stuff like that. So just kind of think about that, because that person will also, when you're setting priorities, that'll be the person we lean on for all your work schedule for the year. So one thing you guys had talked about was South Dunnigan underpass murals, the 150th anniversary sculpture, and last but not least, dust up. It's potential relocation of dust up. So I think that's good. I think when James and I left off, we definitely want to make sure that every year the board had 3 ongoing projects. And we think that you have 2 going now, Tiny Toes and Poetry Project, and then making sure that there's a list of 3 more, just so you have something that is upcoming, and kind of try to get some of them completed before we start some more. And that way we know, how your funding is going to go. You can always plan for your funding. And then we'll have what we call special projects, is what I'll call city projects. And so any projects that have, that are going toward a project that we're going, we'll look at that project and maybe look at overall, how does art play a part? But also, is there any city funds available for those projects? So we'll kind of look at those kind of differently on the side, besides for what you guys come up with on your own for public art. So you guys can talk about any of the upcoming projects if you want to talk about those. South Dunnigan underpass murals. I know the last thing Cal said to me was, I think you guys were going to do an RFQ for those. I didn't know what you guys had decided.
Yeah.
It'd probably been good to approve those.
We voted that
minutes.
we wanted it.
Yes.
And we decided it would be more than one artist. That's the big thing that we talked about. So it'd be a group, or somehow more than one. And it was going to be big. It's a big space.
Okay.
That's, as far as I remember, that's as far as we got. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll probably send Bobby down and get me some pictures of the space, and then
Kyle had
He
some
had
of
some
that.
pictures.
Did we have some already?
Put them
Okay.
up, yeah.
So we'll get a good canvas of that, and then So we're gonna get one group to do the whole thing or break it up? Do we have a theme?
That's what we kicked that around for a while, whether or not to have just one person do it or a group, a little bit like the Prince Street murals.
But it wouldn't be as many, it'd be like one or two.
Yeah.
Versus.
Kind of here
And it's a
now.
whole bunch,
weirder,
yeah.
it's a weirder shaped
It is,
space
yeah.
too. Yeah, it's longer and lower and
Yeah.
not as evenly broken up the way Prince
What's
is.
the projection time for that?
So first things would be an RFQ. We do an RFQ for artists. So we'll start working on that now.
That those haven't been chosen yet, the artists? No one, like, the application process? Okay.
So it's more, we're trying to figure out all the parameters to put in the RFQ,
Mhm.
and then artists will send stuff in. to Look at.
And it might be worth talking about. To my mind, I can't remember where we left this. One of the weird things is that it's lower. It's not, Prince is pretty big,
Mhm.
and this one's lower and much longer. And we might want to make some determinations. The board might want to decide things like, do we want it to have more of thematic as opposed to individual kind of whatever? It might be some way to make it work better. Yeah, some kind of flow to it better. Something worth talking about probably.
Mhm. Yep, I think so. So I'll start working on just a blanket RFQ and then I'll let you guys fill in the parameters next meeting. I know James had asked me about a theme for would there be like an ongoing theme? I know Prince Street doesn't have any kind of theme. It's just, and then limiting the amount of artists was the only two things he mentioned, I can think of that he mentioned to me. And then the 150th anniversary sculpture, that was a big one. That was like a big project.
What
Like
was it, the anniversary of?
You
It's
know,
150 years or something.
it's not Conway.
Suck?
I think it's Conway.
Is it Conway?
I think
Maybe
it's
so.
Conway.
Maybe
I think it's like what, 2 years away.
It's like a big one.
Yeah.
It's like 2 years away. So, but just definitely something to think about if you're
October 6,
thinking of a
1875.
yeah.
So we were thinking about that. One idea was to move Dust Up, to have something there.
And then have something there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, of course, is that where we want,
A big sculpture,
Conway?
yeah.
There's some downsides to that too.
Okay.
So I think on that one, we need to start, thinking about location and or a theme.
Yeah, if it's gonna be 150, location would be, it's gonna be key
It needs to be.
to like, see it visible. Okay.
I think knowing, well, we talked about roundabout and a roundabout, but I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be in a roundabout. So if there's a site or a location, a city property that might be better than others,
I'll look at.
the one on the 6th Street overpass, that large roundabout there has always been, because you can see it from the highway and everybody, But it'd have to be big.
It would have to be big.
Mhm.
Event Horizon cost us around about 80,000 once it was all said and done. So it was about an $80,000 piece. So that's what you would be looking at, between probably $80,000 and $100,000. Your last budget you did have that much, so
The way we talked about was a big splash.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, 150th, I mean,
Yeah.
comes around once, so.
so
Yeah, where?
I'll write the 6th Street overpass down as a potential.
Right, see if street department, if there's any utilities or
I'll let
anything like
them
that.
But they
in
can
there.
start. There's no base on that
Yeah.
roundabout either, so we have to think about, a base to it.
Sure.
Because of course our new roundabouts are built with those in there, but that one was not. So whenever we're talking about that, adding that into the project. Potential relocation of Dust Up. I think the biggest thing with that is, what would you put there?
Yeah.
So what kind of art would go? And that's Dust Up is the one by Hendrix. It's the small piece. It was relocated. I think we relocated next to the trails. I think that would be a good place for it. There
Is
was
it the one from Washington Avenue?
Yeah, it's like first.
Tyler?
I'll act it out for you.
That's
making sure
my art
when we-
gallery.
Yeah,
So
making sure
that's
we
why
put
I'm
them in
like,
roundabouts, that they are to scale.
Yeah.
Event Horizon is big enough to be in a
Dramatic,
roundabout. It's dramatic, yes. So making sure that it's, it's big enough to be in the roundabouts, but also, like it's visual. I mean, it's, so I think that was also looking for ideas for that space. I know y'all had talked about buying a piece at one time.
Yeah, purchasing something. And we don't want to just take the concrete out that's there, right? And go back to grass in the, because it's Hendrix's, right?
Oh, there's some weird
There's some
relationship
weird-
there.
The
Yeah.
city Hendrix, it's kind of.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember. There was something about the site.
Co-parenting, that's.
Yeah. It's a joint.
Co-parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's co-parenting.
Co-parenting.
That is a
That
good
sounds
term.
great.
That's what we get to the toe, we co-parenting, and now I'm like,
Oh.
my cow has left me. My toe.
You turned
I don't
into a
know.
prince.
It's, I guess we could think about, either way.
Put some grass or some flowers in there.
Well, it depends what goes in. What goes in there could be. who
Oh, I'm,
knows?
Built around it.
I'm proposing nothing go back in there.
Oh, you're proposing nothing go back
Yeah.
in there.
That's
Just move it.
interesting.
Just move it.
Yeah, and if Hendrix wants to do something,
Yeah,
they can
plant
put
some
it in there. Yeah.
bushes or something in there. I don't know.
Or put a piece of sculpture in there. Or, well.
Yeah, we don't want to open that back up.
I think we'd have to put something in there. I'm almost positive we may want to put some, we take that art out, because we wouldn't take it out unless we replaced it, yeah.
Is there, are there guidelines on sizing of height or whatever, visual because of, I don't know, just.
So transportation will
You know,
look at it and make sure that it's
Move around.
to scale. I mean, they'll look at any art piece that we put in there and make sure it's not too high, doesn't have the wrong colors in
Oh, the
it.
wrong color, and the wrong light.
And the wrong
lit
lights,
colors.
he'll check
Yeah.
all of that. It has to be certain lights, certain heights, so he'll check all of that for us. So yes, it will have to meet some.
Okay.
But again, something to scale, I think, is what most people would think when they think about.
Or, something that made sense.
Yes.
Anything.
I got the tour today, I know.
So just thinking about that as well, just brainstorming about, is it a piece of art that you purchase? Is it commissioning a smaller piece or bigger piece? Smaller? Something
I had a
bigger.
line on an art prophet Hendrix, but I don't know how far away that would be, but he does really clever 3D things. And we were talking about kinetic pieces, and he's new on the faculty, and I think he's struggling to, but maybe I'll ask him about it again and just see if I put that bug in his ear. But he had some great ideas. I don't know if he could have some huge thing that like the wind moves it and it sort of circles in on its most clever idea. I don't know. Just a thought. Or a toad.
Or toads, or more toads.
Yeah.
It may need to be bigger.
We have two big ones. We have one in the chamber, and then we have Mr. Whimsical Toad. So we have two big ones. Any other projects or priorities that you guys can think of? If you want to send them to me, I'll add them to the list. Again, I think 3 would be good to kind of work on. That way you have a working plan that you work on every year. You kind of know what to expect, and then checking things off the list as we go and just kind of work from there. You guys do receive funding from the voluntary tax for parks, and I will, again, I'll get you a good budget for 2023. You haven't spent any money this year because I have not done the purchase order, but I did get one today. And then when I do that, I will send the budget out without that invoice on it, and then I'll send you an email with that invoice on it, just so you guys can keep track of that. And I'll always print that out for the meetings and bring that with me for y'all to have. Or it'll be part of the agenda that we'll send out. One of us will send out. So
I'd like to add marketing for public art and/or like keeping going on the Facebook page and like maybe a website or something like that. So public
Exposure.
exposure and that kind of thing. Yeah, if we focus on that this year as well.
Right.
I don't
we
know
did
how.
have someone reach out to us It was intern. And I'll have to look that information back up. So I think sometimes we can always find interns who wants to do social media. And so maybe that's a way we can kind of have an intern on staff, and then part of their duties will be looking at things to post for the Public Art Board. So we can look at that as well. You are a marketing coordinator, so you can also help us with that. So that would be great. And you guys do have a Public Art Board page. I think myself and Joanna, are you an administrator on there?
A while back, I don't know.
Okay, I know I'm still an administrator on the page because we administer all the city pages. We can post anything you'd like for us to post. We do a lot of scheduling of posts for all of the city pages. And so we kind of sit down and go through, run of things we're going to post, but those things are scheduled. We may take like a whole day and do social media, but they're scheduled out to post throughout the month. So if there's things that we need to be posting, we may do some an introduction to the Public Art Committee. I don't know if we've done that for this board, but we may start off with like introducing the Public Art Board again, and just kind of getting the page back going once again. So we'll think of some things to do with that. You go from there.
It'd be cool to like go to the different spots and places throughout Conway that have art or sculptures displayed, and like someone doing a live video with it from the art
Matt
board.
worked on a
page or
page.
a map
Really,
where
really
you could
nice
like,
map.
yeah, but I don't think we've ever,
I think I think we can still see it,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's live. So maybe follow up with Matt about the public art.
and it'd tell like the
It's
history of
really
it.
well
about the
done.
artists
It's
and all
Yeah, he did a
that.
great
Yeah.
job. I just
I
don't
like
think
that.
it's live.
Right, yeah.
So we can always do that. And then we can always have Bobby go out and do us some videos. We can have one of the Public Art Board members there explaining about the piece of art if we want to. So we can always come up with some cool things. It's cool. Anything to keep us off camera.
Joanna said she wants to talk about
Anything to keep us off camera, but yeah, talking about some of the public art that we have. So we can always do that. Just fun things, fun things to post. So anything you think of, email us, send them our way, and then we'll start working through those just to kind of get the page back active. But we do have an active Facebook page for the public art. So, yeah. That's it. Any questions, comments? Excited? No, people excited?
It's good. New energy, new people. It's
New energy,
good.
new people. I'm excited. I was really excited, then I realized I don't have an interdepartmental group anymore. So I'm gonna start working on that because we're working on a lot of projects. And again, there's a way for public art to be, I think, again, involved on the front end. And that's just kind of like a side project. We'll have a special projects page and we'll say, hey, we're building a soccer facility. Would you guys like to, and then we'll let you guys pick the art and what is done with it. We'll just know that it's a special project, and we'll look at budget and all that good stuff. But kind of go. And of course, we're building an aquatic center, so
Yes.
that's coming up as well. So
It's gonna be a while, man.
just good places to. We're working on the trail, so we'll start working on the raise grant we won. Hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have a kickoff meeting for that. And so hopefully along the trail, I know that's probably one of the biggest asks I get is, to put things along the trail, just interactive things along the trail. So
Like
that's
small sculptures of children that.
not those. Those
I know,
kids.
like Hot Springs, they have a thing where they have a walking trail and they have artists submit their materials, and if they're chosen, then they imprint it onto a metal piece, and then they have a QR code where people can look up the story of that too as they're walking along
As
the
they're
trail.
working the trail, yeah.
And it changes like every 12 months, I believe.
Oh, so something like that. Again, we're about to add 15 miles of trail, so it'd be great to, it's a lot of space, so it'd be great to have some public art or interactive. Kind of what we thought about when we first did Blue Cycle was, originally we thought about putting it everywhere. That Blue Cycle has been everywhere, but it's interactive. So it was like it could be interactive along the trail, and you could add interactive pieces, along with it. So have a music theme going. So anything like that, I think would be cool. And again, they're open spaces. They're all city owned. so we don't have to worry about that. So just keep that in mind that those projects are coming along. And I'll start keeping on your agendas, you'll just see a running tab of projects. And so there'll be all city projects that are ongoing that could possibly have space for public art. You know, like again, the aquatic center, you know, has a community center, which, you know, once we're done, we'll have a lot of walls. So, you know, maybe, you know, painting some murals on some of that could be something we do at the end. So lots of things we can do though. Cool. Is there any questions for me? Got everything? That's it. That's all I had. If you guys don't have any questions, that's essentially all I had. Just wanted to make sure we got everybody in here. We'll send out a lot of emails, of course, so we'll try to stay as busy as possible. But we definitely want to see the Public Art Board get a lot of face time with a lot of these art projects that are upcoming. So, yeah, so if that's it, we will adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Done. We're done.